Back on Inside Tennessee, we hope you have a good Sunday morning. John North to lead our questions with the judge.
Judge, I wanted to focus in on the mental health court, which has my curiosity. It's in the works, it's on the table, it's been something that's been planned for at least a year. As I understand it, there are a handful of other districts that have already been doing it. I think down Bradley County way, that's one, maybe Hamilton is another,
yes,
just
sir.
Another example. Let me ask you a few questions, if I may. First of all, how's this going to get paid for? Is Knox County going to be subsidizing this every year? This isn't a fee-driven court, or is it?
No. There's a very low likelihood that you could have something analogous to the fee-driven courts where someone pays court costs. Although paying your court costs is one of our requirements, many of our folks end up indigent and are unable to pay and will eventually have court costs waived. So the brief answer to your question is the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, which is absolutely a godsend for our courts. We were under the Office of Criminal Justice Programs. No offense to those guys, but the transfer has helped us huge. But they actually provide the funding. Legislature, the state of Tennessee voted to provide funding specifically for mental health courts, and there is grant funding from the state. It'll be routed through the county's budget, and the county will administer it in the form of paying salaries, et cetera.
We talking $50K a year, $100K a year? Do we know?
We're starting off with the balance of this fiscal year with a little over $50,000, and that'll allow us to hire our first director of the mental health court, which has happened, and hire our first case manager. To be candid with you, Mike Hammond actually allowed the director to come out of his budget, which I think is a very gracious thing for him to do, and he's been so fiscally responsible. He's got a budget to hire Casey Stone, who I'm really proud of her. She's hit the ground running, and she's making us all work. We're going to be up and running sooner than you think because of her involvement. I'm really
It's without
grateful.
question. I've sat in courts, your court, for 30 years. People at this table are familiar. Without question, we have people. It'd be much better if you take them outside of the sort of the judicial focus and put them in a place where they can be more responsive. They don't belong in a jail if possible. But I wonder, is this so unique that it puts someone like yourself, who knows the law and has run courtrooms for many years, but now we're talking about evaluating, what to do about a person who be mentally ill. Do you need any special training, or do you have to rely on a lot of advice from people?
That's an extremely good question, and what that leads me to tell you about is the whole aspect of staffing. In a normal criminal justice context, it would be inappropriate to have any communication with the judge that is not heard by both sides, prosecutor, defense, and defendant,
Sure.
just as a basic concept. But what happens in a recovery court or mental health court context is the professionals get together with the judge to discuss how somebody has done for the past week. And let's just take a very typical example, and in fact this happened just this past week. Got a veteran who missed a drug screen, and he also was sick, and so he couldn't attend the docket, like sick in the hospital. And so as a result, we discussed the situation. Him missing the drug screen is something he needs a moderate, low-level sanction for. He's been in our program for a while, and he should not miss a drug screen. So, and it's not the first time, and so we were going to give him 24 hours. But because of the fact
that's 24 hours to serve.
To serve in custody, right? And because he's sick, we're going to have to address that with him at a later time, and I'm going to have to tell him why we're doing that, because it has to be logically connected to the behavior he exhibited. In much the same way that if you're trying to train your puppy, you wouldn't send your puppy a memo and say, pee-pee on the carpet, I'm going to discuss this with you next month, and that, we can't have that again. You can't communicate that way, and you can't actually effectuate behavioral change. Human beings, I don't mean to deny our dignity and worth and stuff like that. We learn in other ways, obviously, much more conceptual ways. But the bottom line is, if you touch a hot stove, you're going to pull your hand back. And if you have a pleasurable experience, or if you're proud of yourself, or if someone recognizes an accomplishment, you're going to get that satisfied feeling. We actually make use of that. in a system of sanctions and incentives to help people modify their behavior so they reject their old life of using and self-medicating their trauma and trying to deaden their pain with drugs, and that they make the transition to becoming a useful citizen who's helpful to their family and reunited with their loved ones and don't reoffend.
One other question I wanted, just for clarification, and some folks at home may be wondering this as well. We are talking about primarily nonviolent offenders who would be participants in this. And Judge, mental illness, and I speak from having dealt with this in my family and having personal knowledge, is really a lifetime affliction. It's not something that you can just fix. You can treat it, but it doesn't ever go away, unfortunately. So I guess I would ask you, what is the best hope one would have for giving folks who are in these kinds of situations sort of treatment, because you're not going to be with them for the rest of their lives?
We did have a couple of participants that stayed with us for a pretty long time, but you're right. The idea is to give a participant, not only help them through behavioral change, but also give them tools, coping strategies, understanding of their own situation, insight, so that they can, if they have
future resources.
Exactly. Treatment resources, referrals to, we're going to partner with several agencies and healthcare providers in the community. We're excited about partnering with Helen Ross McNabb. They're going to be a significant partner in our treatment piece, because remember, I'm not qualified to be a counselor, just as you said, and I humbly admit that. And that's why, during staffing, during this time of talking about the participant behind their back, I guess you might say, we're actually talking, we're in a, I like to use the terminology, benign conspiracy to try and help them. And so after the staffing occurs, that's when I have the docket, which is a fancy legal term for list of stuff we have to do today. And then we actually have the colloquy or interaction with the participant, and if they've done well, if they've made it to all their drug screens, if they just got a great new job, or if something else significant positive has happened, if they've had a bunch of clean time, then I have the opportunity to lead the whole group in applauding them and telling them how wonderful they've done, and provide some sort of tangible incentive, we hope. And of course, if they haven't done well, then I have the colloquy or discussion with them where I have to chastise them for not doing quite as well, and let them know what kind of disincentive we're going to have to impose.
We've got to leave the discussion there. Judge, we appreciate the time. We appreciate all of your efforts to make this work in our community.
I appreciate you. Thank you for letting me have an opportunity to share with the community what we're doing.
It's our privilege. We'll be back on Inside Tennessee.